How do you start this, mother?
Welcome. Welcome back. Welcome back to No Contingencies podcast. I'm Heather Nix, here with Dan Perdome.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all of you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us again for another episode. This time we want to talk a little bit about, what we see the greatest threats are to the market this year, specifically here locally. But what are the major challenges that we all must keep an eye on this year? Do you have any ideas? Do you think it's going to be a breezy market?
I mean, it's all over the place. Like, no matter what you read, you get different data, you get different stats, you get different, insight from various economic predictors.
Yeah.
So I'm at a loss.
Yeah, we're not doing this to make predictions.
Yeah.
We're just, we want to talk about what we're going to be keeping an eye on. We're not saying which way it's going to go.
Right.
But just, what are the greatest challenges? So you want me to get started?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So the third one that I have is, I wrote consumer confidence, right? And this really speaks to what you're talking about, that there's so many differing opinions out there right now with what's going to be happening with the market this year, that I think people are not confident. They're unsure. And we know that markets, real estate, equity markets, they hate uncertainty.
Mm-hmm. But life is uncertain in general.
It is. It is. But don't you think it really affects people when they're about to make a major purchase?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, again, it depends on who you listen to.
When the national media gets on a subject, right, they just beat it to death. They just keep beating the drum. And their opinion is this is going to be a bad year for real estate, right? And it might be in LA. and it might be in New York.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't see any of those signs here locally in our market.
It's true.
But there's a lot of people that move here from LA to New York.
That is true.
So it affects their mindset.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody that's thinking about a big move right now?
Move to South Carolina. Move to Hilton Head.
I mean, that's great advice. That's great advice. But, I was thinking more in terms of should they pay attention? Who should they pay attention to?
I mean, again, I think we're so stuck on listening to other people and listening to the possibilities of what could happen that people don't make informed decisions for themselves, And that's, again, I mean, if you're constantly listening to the negativity of the media, and let's face it, that's mostly what media is. I mean, that's all I can remember from the last 15 years anyway, that you're never going to do anything. You're not going to have kids because the world's supposedly going to end in 5 or 10 years. Because
it doesn't sell, right?
No.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. The news is always going to be that the glass is half empty. Always.
Yeah. They're
never going to say, guys, this is going to be a banner year for real estate. Go out and buy a bunch of property and spend a lot of money and do your thing, Be you. Do you.
What I find remarkable is how wrong they are so often.
Yeah.
And the news cycle is so fast. It happens so fast that we forget about it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I just think back to February and March of 2020.
Yeah.
Right? When we were just starting to hear more about this COVID thing in February. I mean, in January, I was in South Florida. And there was a little bit of conversation, but I mean, I had somebody fly in to stay with us from France.
Yeah.
And they had no trouble traveling, and that was in January.
Yeah.
And by March, everything was shut down. And what was the media saying? They were calling for biblical end of times.
Yes.
Is the only way I can describe it.
Yeah.
Economies were going to crash. People were going to be left homeless because they weren't going to be able to pay their bills. All of these things were predicted.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the craziest boom that we've ever had financially.
Exactly.
In part because the government decided to just start printing money.
Right.
But the media had it so unbelievably wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember in our organization having virtual meetings with everybody in the organization and just begging them to not give up.
Yeah.
Because the negativity was so overwhelming.
And remember how with every month that went on, we all just got busier and busier and busier. And I kept like scratching my head like, golly, when's the ball gonna drop? Like when is this gonna like go south? And it just kept getting better and better and better. And I don't know. It's the world we live in.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for it.
I think the bottom line is, you want to know what the weather is, step outside.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't listen to anybody. Step outside and see it for yourself.
Exactly.
So what's one that you had?
I mean, again, I've been researching, I've been reading, and one article says one thing, another article says another. I thought the funniest thing I came across was, it's not a buyer's market. It's not going to be a seller's market. It's not going to be anybody's market. It's going to be a nobody's market. I think that's hilarious. I mean, with interest rates up, I think it's only normal that housing prices are going to maybe have to come down a little bit so that people can afford to purchase. But
so the law of economics is a law of supply and demand.
Right.
Right? What drives prices up is either a high demand or a low supply or a combination of the two, right? There's not exact numbers.
Yeah.
So I can see that housing being less affordable, because to borrow money, it costs you more money to borrow the money in interest. And at the same time, on top of that, I think I read that in the last 5 years, prices in our market are up 70% in the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. And don't quote me on that if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I read 68 or 70%. I'm pretty sure that in the last 3 years, it was in the mid 40s.
Yeah.
But prices have gone up. So you're paying 40% more for the same house. And now on top of that, the interest portion of your payment is twice as much as it would have been a year ago. That speaks to affordability. Yeah. And that, that applies to the law of demand. Mm-hmm. Now, I think we also have to understand that it's artificial, right? Because people still want to buy. Mm-hmm. It's just a question of whether or not they can afford to right now.
Right.
So it hasn't changed demand, meaning like people no longer want the widget.
Right.
They still want it. It's just, can they afford it? But at the same time, the part that makes me feel like prices aren't going to go down, inventory has, like, where inventory is right now. Yeah. It's never, ever, ever been this low.
It's true.
Ever.
Yeah.
Right?
It's, like I think we said recently, it's still not a normal market. It's not normal.
It's never been this low.
Yeah.
So it's lower than it's ever been, said another way.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably low. Now, if you go back 10 years and you say that this is the lowest that it's ever been, you would also have to agree that over the last 10 years, there's been a lot of new product added out in Bluffton, right? So there's a percentage of homes that are for sale compared to what the current stock is. And the stock, the size of properties that have been built over the last 10 years has gone up significantly. Mm-hmm. However, despite that, inventory has never been as low as it is right now. And it's not by a small margin, it's significant. Yeah. So if the demand side stays or the supply side stays unbelievably low, historically low, can prices go down? That's the part that when I look at it, I can't get my arms around how prices in our market can go down with the supply being as low it is. And it's a given. demand is down. There are less people buying now than
Yeah.
there was a year and a half ago.
And that's where I'm wondering.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, and that's where I'm wondering if, the numbers sort of equalize,
Yeah. Yeah.
But, with interest rates higher, I mean, obviously there's always going to be somebody out there to buy the house. But you are going to have to be mathematically strategic if you're going to buy the $650,000 house that you could have bought 2 years ago, or if you're going to settle for the $375,000 house instead.
Yeah, that becomes the question.
It's,
right?
yeah, I mean,
You're willing to kind of take the medicine of it.
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at other parts of the economy that affect all of this, other parts of the economy are kind of strong, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the jobs report just came out, and like, there's unemployment is again historically low. So there's talk of a recession, and all of these problems with the economy. But I think that there's a set of circumstances in play
Yeah.
right now that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
So, the Fed is running the plays that are in their playbook, the Federal Reserve,
Yeah.
but the game is not a game that they've ever seen before.
Yeah. So they're just kind of figuring it out as they go along as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all in this together.
Yeah, it is. It's a bunch of circumstances I don't think we've ever seen before.
Yeah.
And the thing that concerns me the most is the Federal Reserve has stuck their flag in the ground and said, we're going to keep doing this until we get inflation at 2%.
Yeah.
What if that's unachievable? What if in today's new world, 2% inflation is not really achievable? What would it take to get to that? Would they literally have to crash the economy?
Yeah.
And, if you crash the United States economy, to a certain extent, you're going to crash the world economy.
Yeah. I don't know. We always have China and Russia.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that we want to rely on them. So it's funny, what you brought up was my second point, and that was one of affordability, right? So my first challenge was consumer confidence. I don't think it's, it's a real challenge, but I don't think it's a meaningful data point on our local real estate markets. It's a sentiment, right?
Right.
Affordability is a real data point. Like you can either add up the payment and the cost of the house and find out whether or not you can get the loan or you can't. And so, that's a real factor.
Yeah.
And then the last one that I put, the number one, is inventory. And we just, we're talking about that. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think we're going to see more inventory? Are people going to decide to put their house on the market?
Other than people that have to, no. I don't think for the next year we're going to see that trend again. I just don't.
Yeah. So what's going to happen?
I mean, there's always going to be people that have to sell for some reason or another, whether it's to upsize, downsize, relocate. So it's just, again, like I keep going back to this, but over the last couple of years, people were just selling for the hell of it. They were throwing a number out there to see if they could get it. And then, versus.
And then let me ask you to stay on for a second. Then what were they doing when they did get the crazy number?
From what I saw, they were either building. So there were a lot of lease backs.
Yep.
So they were either building or they were purchasing a house that fit that chapter of their life.
Trading up, trading down, trading sideways, right?
Yes.
So, so as you led into that, you said people are always going to have to sell or want to sell.
Yeah.
And, one of the reasons was to upsize, downsize. Taking into account the affordability piece, do you think that the affordability piece would affect that decision of upsizing, downsizing,
affording the current property that they're in?
So let's say that you bought your house during this boom.
Yeah.
At the beginning of it.
Yeah.
So what you paid for the house, it's now gone up, let's say 40%. And so you can have a nice windfall You know, if you paid $700,000 for it, now you could sell it for $1 million. So nice windfall there.
Yeah.
You haven't refinanced or anything like that, and so you have tons of equity in the property now.
Yeah.
And you know, are you selling? Like you just made the house yours. You know, it's still new to you. It's 2 years. Like, are you selling that house?
Heck no.
Yeah.
Why would you?
Okay. So why would you? So let's try something different. Let's say you've been in your house 10 years.
Okay.
Okay. But when the storm hit, you decided to take advantage of that like a lot of people did.
Yeah.
And you refinanced. And you took your property from a 4.9% interest rate to a 2.9% interest rate.
Okay.
Okay. So you did this refinance, and like a lot of people, you were at home, so you did a couple remodeling things during, and you guys did remodel your house, right? As did I.
Yeah.
And so you've now made the house, you know, new again.
Yeah.
And so now here you are, and maybe you could use a house that's a little bit bigger. You know, maybe you'd like to do something different. Your house is worth a lot more now than what you paid for it 10 years ago.
Right.
And your payment is super low because you refinanced.
But you did spend the money remodeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going to sell your house and trade?
I mean, I'm not,
Why not?
because I'm happy with my payment. I'm happy with my interest rate. And I'm happy with the house that I made my own,
Yep.
you know?
If you could buy another house, right? Like if you could trade it for another house and get the exact same interest rate, might you consider it then?
Yes.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
To me, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think that it's really hard for a lot of people to put their house on the market.
Yeah.
Unless they have to.
Mm-hmm.
And trading up, trading down, trading sideways for most people right now is not a have to situation,
Correct.
because it's very different than 2008. People are not over leveraged. They're not, you know, prices haven't fallen, so people are not upside down like the situation in 2008,
Right.
right? Most people have interest rates were so low that I don't really know anybody in 2020 that did a refinance that didn't get a 30-year fixed loan.
Yep.
Because it was so low.
Yeah.
Where, you know, in 2004 and 2005, during those crazy times, people were getting interest-only loans that adjusted every 2 years.
Scary.
And so, you know, those people's payments doubled
Yeah.
when things started going sideways, and they were upside down, so they couldn't refinance,
Yeah.
and they were in a horrible situation. We don't have that.
I think everyone's learned a lot from that.
Yeah. So unless you have to move for a job,
Yeah.
like what are the scenarios that somebody has to sell their house?
I mean, adding more people to your family. I mean, look at how many people are moving in their parents or grandparents or having more children. So, I mean, but like it's a personal decision. I mean, you can make almost anything work. I mean, look at the people that live in New York City.
So I just did some quick math, right?
Okay.
Just hypothetically, let's pretend that we're this hypothetical couple.
Okay.
We have our house. It's worth $700,000. We bought it 2 years ago.
Okay.
We put $70,000 down, so we put 10% down, and we got a 2.9% interest rate. Our payment is $2,900 a month.
Yeah.
Okay. We buy that same house right now,
Yeah.
6.9% interest rate. Our payment is $4,400.
Yeah. That's significant.
$2,900 versus $4,400.
It's like 2 car payments.
Yeah. Now here's the rub. Let's say you and I said, hey, you know, we're having another baby and we need a bigger place.
Yeah.
So we're going to sell our $700,000 place and we're going to buy an $850,000 place, $150,000 more. And we're going to put $10,000 down. So we're going to put $85,000 down, right? but interest rates now are 6.9%, 5,361. So to get that extra room, right, for the new baby, we're going from $2,900 a month payment to $5,300 a month. Now, that's not going to help us pay the house off any sooner.
No.
That's just going to the bank. That's just interest.
Yeah.
I just see so many smart people saying, well, we're just going to stay put. And the more people that say that we're going to stay put, the less inventory there is.
Correct. Which leads me to my question for you. What are you going to do with your resources to attract the people that have to sell?
Attract the people that have to sell. So the first thing that I want them to know is that I'm paying attention to the market. I'm not listening to the media. I'm following our own local statistics. So I'm, to use the analogy I used before, I'm stepping outside and checking the weather. I'm not going based on what people are telling me. I'm going based on what I see. And for a person that has to sell, I think it's a great time. I really do think that because you have not a lot of competition. The key is make sure your house is exceptional.
Yes.
It needs to be what I call toothbrush ready, meaning you just show up with your toothbrush and it's ready to go. So all the deferred maintenance needs to be done. This whole thing like, I'm not going to replace the carpets. I'm going to let the next person do that because, they're, because I don't know exactly what they're going to want. I'm going to say, no, you need to go to Nick's Flooring and Design and you need to pick out, a flooring style that is what is today. And you need to basically make your house as close to a new house as you can. That's how you're going to capture the most money you can for it.
Yes. Yeah.
So just that kind of advice where we're helping them benefit as much as they possibly can from the circumstances.
And what's your approach with the buyers out there? How are you easing them into such an uncertain market, and how are you guiding them?
With facts.
Yeah.
No, I've never met a person that wants to be sold.
Yeah.
So our job is not to sell anybody. Yeah. Our job is to accumulate the information and help people understand the information, because there's, the internet has been great for consumers because it's really kind of pulled back the curtain.
Yeah.
And now
it's just so much information.
Exactly.
So much information.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, we've pulled back the curtain and we've showed them everything. Like, they can see basically everything that we can see.
Yeah.
The problem is they don't have the experience and the training to look at it and make sense out of it. Have you ever had like an X-ray or a?
I was just gonna say.
Right, and the doctor like she can you see the break right there? And you're like, yeah, I can see that, but you can't see shit, right? It's just black and white globs of whatever.
Yeah, I have a similar analogy. It's almost like going to WebMD and trying to come up with your own diagnosis versus going to a doctor who's going to go, through 100 other things before getting to what WebMD says it is.
That's right.
Have
you ever gone to WebMD and be pretty sure that you know exactly what's wrong with you?
I mean, I'm dying every day.
Right? Could you imagine making decisions with your greatest source of wealth?
Yeah.
From that perspective of you're pretty sure that you have some horrible stomach disease.
Yeah.
Right? And because all the symptoms.
This is it.
On WebMD, right?
Yeah.
Now, could you imagine if you didn't consult? You're like, I already know. Don't tell me. Just cut me open. And take my gallbladder out or whatever the hell it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, no, the doctor goes through and they're always, or they're not always right, but they just have so much more experience than we do to understand the nuances. And it's the same thing. Like you wouldn't want to just dump your house based on all of this data. The data is good,
Yeah.
but it's the interpretation of it that is where we bring value.
So true. I agree.
Yeah. So it's just helping people make the best decision for themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I've told people buying oceanfront houses to not buy it.
Yeah.
Right? When they say, "What do you think?" I say, I don't know about this, or I don't know about that. And it's difficult because you want to make the sale.
Well, and the reality of it is, I guess, when you're doing something like that, you're thinking of that client, that person as a whole, because somebody is going to buy that house and they're going to be glad they did. But it all comes down to who's more in a position to take the house on, right?
Yeah.
Because, I don't think there's ever such a bad thing as real estate in general. I just think it's a great place to put your money. But so what would be a reason that you would advise someone not to buy that oceanfront property? Because someone's going to buy it.
Yeah. So it's a balance. So what I'm trying to assess or ascertain is their expectation meet the reality of that house?
Okay.
So that's kind of the first data point that I'm trying to analyze and make sure that I can, look at myself in the mirror and say,
So I feel like an example of that would be oceanfront houses. The exterior maintenance of them are actually pretty expensive. Mm-hmm. So would that be like a factor for you, like knowing what they want to spend for upkeep?
Yeah, using an oceanfront house as an example, to a certain extent. So let's say that it's a house, and by looking at it, I can just freaking tell that there's water problems. I can just look at the stucco.
Yep.
And where the decks are, and then inside there's signs that everything has all been freshly painted, but there's signs that there's a little bit of extra caulking on the window trim.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But otherwise they love the house.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a real conversation with them about what my concerns are, and that I don't have x-ray vision.
Yeah.
And I'm not an inspector and all of those things, but there are signs that I see, and we need to, go the extra mile in terms of inspections and maybe infrared inspections to see behind the stucco. Yeah. Now, what happens in this market that we were just in, where the seller of that property is saying, no, you can't even have an inspection.
Yeah.
What do you do? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to make sure that they truly understand the concerns.
Yeah.
And if they want to proceed and go forward at that point.
Yeah, if we love it enough to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in, fixing the problem.
But generally what happens is at some point they say, okay, well, you or us, what would you do?
Yeah.
And I have said I wouldn't buy it.
Yeah.
There's just too much that I'm unsure about. And right now there might not be anything else, but there'll always be something. And so it's just understanding what their expectations are, and making sure that that things align. So that's the first thing. Okay. The second thing, and this is probably a hard thing to describe, is I try to look forward and pretend it's a year later.
Okay.
How do I feel about their purchase a year from now? Yeah. And how do they feel about their purchase a year from now?
I'm scared to see them like in the grocery store, like, oh my God.
Not if I'm totally transparent with them about, possible concerns. Yeah. But when I look ahead a year, I never want to be in a situation that somebody comes to me a year down the road and says, hey, we want to sell, where we have a conversation that I can't sell it for what they paid for it because they overpaid for it.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that I think about.
Smart.
Kind of my moral compass around, transactions and helping buyers with real data.
Yeah. I don't think anybody would survive this industry without a moral compass. I think that makes the greats from the not so greats.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know I wouldn't sleep well at night if I didn't feel like I was doing the right thing, even if it's misunderstood.
Yeah.
Still got to look at yourself in the mirror. So what would you tell the seller? Like, why should a seller contact you right now? And then same question about buyers. How would you navigate a situation with buyers in this market where it's going to cost them a hell of a lot of money to sell their house? Right? Was it they have a $2,900 payment to go from a $700,000 house to an $850,000 house and see their payment almost double?
Well, I mean, your answer, of course, is very much in alignment with what my answer is. But I'll just give you an example of a situation that I just ran into. So I've got some folks and they're actually looking at some new construction, which is great. But I mean, it's a production build. So he's very used to, he works in very, very high-end houses, like the $1 million range. So it's hard for him to justify paying what the asking price is on these houses when he can go, he's seen behind the scenes and the, some of the shoddy work. I mean, let's just be honest. But, I had said to them, why don't you maybe consider buying something at this price point versus this price point, and then reevaluate your situation in 2 years and maybe even hold on to that property or sell it, and then make the jump in 2 years to what you really, truly want.
So buy something now, less money.
Yeah.
Get into it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Spend 2 years into it so that, so that you can sell it if you want to sell it and not pay capital gains.
Correct.
Any kind of increase that you would have.
Correct.
But then at that time, move into something that's more of what you really want.
Yeah.
And then either sell it.
Yeah. Or rent it out.
Or rent it out.
I mean,
right? There's going to be a tremendous housing shortage.
Even with the house that's less money that I'm trying to sort of guide them on, it's less than what they're paying in rent. So, you're sort of settling. It's not your dream home, but, with all this uncertainty that everybody's talking about, why not do something, strategic and just see where we are over the course of the next 2 years.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic advice.
Yeah.
And hey, how about you stop paying somebody else's mortgage and you start paying your own?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Until,
bank some money.
Until the game is in your favor.
Yeah. Banks that take what you would be paying on that larger home, that you're looking at, and set that money aside. But I mean, why would I tell somebody to do that? Because I genuinely care about making sure that people are doing something smart.
Yeah, the thing that's right for them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So. No, I think that's fantastic advice. You're never going to get ahead paying somebody else's mortgage.
No. And you don't want to be house poor. It's very stressful.
Yeah.
The
house that they're in, that they're renting, do they love it?
No. They don't love it. I think they're paying north of $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't love it. So what if they just bought a house that they don't love?
Yeah.
And then started paying themselves for it, become their own landlord.
Exactly.
Right. That's a good step forward. Mm-hmm. Right.
I thought so.
It's not a lateral.
They might
it's
not
a step forward.
Me. And I'll sell you whatever you want. You want to buy the $600,000 new house? Like, let's do it.
Sure.
But I'm just trying to give them other avenues to consider.
Yeah.
Because I like to help people.
Yeah, it's good advice. Thanks. It's good advice. So do you have any other concerns for this year? Items that you think are significant challenges?
I mean, no.
In our real estate market?
I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, that's just kind of like how I live. So no, I read these articles because I knew it was going to be our topic today. So I just wanted to see what was being said. But otherwise, I mean, I do watch the business news. So I like to be informed on, what's going on out there in the business world because, corporate and, that whole globalist.
Did you hear that Elon Musk bought Twitter?
I mean,
you're going to hear first.
I had no idea.
What do you think that's going to do for our market?
I don't know. I honestly feel very bad for Elon. He's got a very thick skin. I just don't think he cares, because and this happens often. We've seen it happen with other politicians where one second they're all sitting at black tie events together, and then the next it's like they're just being torn to shreds. So I mean, good for him.
I think that setting his political aspirations aside, whether he has them or not, I truly don't believe that he has. Yeah, I really think he's an independent.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's one way or the other. Yeah. But, I think there's a lesson in it for all of us.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't that many years ago that Tesla was hours from bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Hours from bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And now it's a multi-billion-dollar company. And SpaceX, I mean, when he started SpaceX, I just remember people saying, like, this is just a guy with too much money. He's stupid.
Yeah.
Then you turn around and he's the richest person in the world.
Yeah.
In the world, right? And now he's done this Twitter thing. And I would be lying if I didn't tell you at some point I thought, why the hell would he do that? That's stupid.
Yeah.
But then I stop and I think about who this guy is. And I have to say, outside of being intellectually a genius, obviously you have to be.
Yeah.
I think it's his thick skin.
It is.
Like, he's not an idiot.
No.
So he's doing this for some reason. And I don't think he's like the crypto guy that was like delusional and taking drugs with his harem in the Bahamas, right? Like, he's nothing like that.
No.
I mean, I think that he has a plan, that he's executing on, and we all just don't see it.
No.
And we think he's crazy. And his thick skin is the reason that he's no longer the richest person in the world, I don't think.
Who surpassed him? Do we know?
I think Bezos at some point.
Yeah.
And I read recently that Bezos may be taking back over Amazon, and becoming the CEO of Amazon again. But there's no doubt in my mind that Elon will be the richest person again. Yeah. And it's the fact that he has this thick skin and he just works his way through the malaise that is why he's successful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to put yourself out there the way he does and to be as vocal as he is and use the platforms, I mean, IDGAF, like.
I don't even know what that means. Okay. I don't. Yeah. I'm such an idiot.
He's doing his thing and he doesn't care.
Yeah. Well, thanks for getting together another episode.
Thank you.
Let's do the next one soon. Let's bring in a guest soon.
Yeah.
Cool.
So many great guests out there.
Thank you all for sharing some time with us.
Yeah.
And if you have any concerns or ideas about the real estate market here locally that you think we'd missed, put them in the comments below. Let us know.
Yeah.
And make sure that you give us a thumbs up. You like the video, you subscribe to the channel.
Yeah.
And you come back soon.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.